Welcome back to the People Being Real show. I am sitting with the one and only Ben Gleib.
That's true. I don't think there's another.
Is there not?
I don't think so.
That's pretty amazing. You are truly one of a kind.
That's right.
And Ben, I'm so inspired by who you be. Most people know Ben for being a hilarious comedian, but you are so much more than that. And I'm personally so inspired by you because I know you've come such a long way. As a child, you had a speech problem, and then only to break through that and to get up on stages. But what I'm even more inspired by you about is how you stand for what you believe in. And you do that so beautifully on your podcast, last week on Earth. You've been on Chelsea lately. You've been really on every single pretty much news network and major publication. And you also speak a lot on political commentary, which I know has inspired a challenge of a lifetime that you've taken on, which is running for president of the United States. So I could go on all day. Your list of accomplishments and credentials is very, very long.
Thanks, man.
But
Idiot Test on Netflix. I still have to occasionally plug my, I guess, former life as a game show host.
Game show host on Idiot Test. But what I'm curious, though, about is to just dive right into your presidential campaign and to hear just the realness as to your journey, what inspired it. So without further ado, let's hear your story.
Sure. It's been a crazy story and one that I did not see coming at all if you would have asked me 5 years ago, and one that I did see potentially coming 2 years ago, and I denied the call for really almost 2 years since Donald Trump was elected. And I kept having this very strong feeling, this scary feeling that he was going to win again if we didn't try something very different than we tried in 2016. And you know, we certainly ran a very qualified person to be president against Trump in 2016, and she lost in the Electoral College pretty badly. And I started seeing all of the talk swirling of all the different people who were considering running, and they were the usual suspects. And I don't think anybody is taking into account the reality of the fact that we are not anymore living in a normal political environment. We're living in a reality show world spun by the P.T. Barnum of our time, just media master manipulators, and one of the greatest, most talented, no matter what you think about Trump, one of the most talented shit talkers in history, greatest heckler in politics that we've ever seen. And I kept having this thought that would keep me up at night. I might have to run for president to stop this guy because I think we need a comedian to take down the greatest heckler of all time. And if Jon Stewart ran, I would not need to run. I kept wanting to deny this call because it's, needless to say, the most intense thing possible. And it's the only job that you try to get, and millions of people try to stop you actively and aggressively. And your entire life is exposed, and people dig into your life and your past and try to make hay out of nothing even all the time. And I love this country so much, I just needed to risk it all to try, because I don't want to live in a country that goes the way of Trump and under his reign of terror is allowing itself to slide so far back that I don't recognize the conversations that are happening in our streets. I don't recognize the things we're being forced to debate again, like whether Nazis are okay again, and the resurgence of white supremacists, and the resurgence of public racism and bigotry, telling people to go back where they came from because they have a different skin color than you, and just an open hatred of anybody who's not part of the rich, moneyed, corrupted elite that Trump seems to thrive in and revel in. And I just couldn't sit by and let it happen. And I wanted to offer the nation another choice other than these cautious politicians who are trying to protect their other jobs in Washington should they lose this election. And I realized that I have nothing to lose in politics, and that why I think a comedian is so well suited to be president is because we're known for keeping it as real as it can get, for telling the truth when politicians are known for lying, and for obfuscating the truth, and for spinning, and for overpromising, and for contradicting themselves and changing their positions constantly just with whatever will get them another vote or another dollar. And so I realized at least my theory is that in a world where we're turning more and more to we're turning more and more to comedians for our news, because we don't trust the news anchors as much because they're part of the same kind of greedy corporate system. Why do we not think the same thing for our politicians and our leaders? Turn to comedians who are known for keeping it real and laying it all on the line and laying it all out there, exposed. Being a comedian is a pretty real job. You have to kind of be willing to make fun of yourself as much as you do society. And that's something that I've tried to always do. And I'm taking it to a whole nother level running for president and just there's an amazing amount of, because I think there's so much frustration and anger in the country. There's an amazing amount of vitriol. It's been overwhelmingly positive. 95% of the response to this campaign has been people inspired by it, which has been the greatest moments of my life, to see the fact and the hunger people have for a leader that is different and speaks from the heart and doesn't seem like they're full of shit like so many politicians do. And that has been the most validating part of this crazy journey that's only under 3 months old now. But also the amount of vitriol and people digging into things you've said or done and trying to spin them into negatives when you were just being an honest person or you were just being yourself has been challenging, but a small price to pay. I just always try to remind myself that there are so many brave people that have given their lives or their limbs to protect our country. And so if I have to take a couple verbal slings and arrows, I can handle it. But it ain't always easy. The other part of why I think it's very important not just to have a comedian in office, but to have a working person in office is because that's who most of us are. The vast majority of this country is people who work hard for their money to make ends meet, to pay their bills, let alone a luxury these days in our economy where we have low unemployment but severe underemployment and people working 2 and 3 jobs, if not 4, to try to pay their bills and stay afloat and still can't save money for retirement. That's a laughable concept to most people. Or be able to put some money away for an emergency, or be able to, let alone ever have a luxurious moment or take a vacation with your family. And it's no surprise to me. I figured I cracked the code in the course of this campaign. If you keep putting people in office who are multimillionaires and who are career politicians over and over again, who haven't been in the public in the private sector in real life for a very long time, no surprise that you keep getting laws that are tilting more and more towards the very rich, wealthy few. And it's the definition of insanity to expect different results when you keep doing the same damn thing. I believe when you lay your heart on the line and when you truly do something with purity, that it will supersede any of that negativity. And some of that vitriol that I mentioned that came early, because I just take it head on and share my heart with even the haters, and then sometimes just block people. It's been quieting down to a huge degree, because I think love and realness and heart and passion is tangible. And I think people know eventually when they litmus test you enough in their own brains that you're where you're coming from. So obviously this campaign's a big long shot. And obviously it's not likely that I become president of the United States or that I get the Democratic nomination. But it's possible if people believe in something different and people don't let themselves be jaded to at least trying to change the things that are broken. And so I pray that people give our campaign more of a chance, because I'm laying it all on the line. I'm turning gray in just the 3 months of this campaign. It's crazy the amount of gray hairs popping into my head and the lack of sleep and working 18, 20, 22, even 25-hour days sometimes straight before going to sleep. I can promise anybody hearing this that I'm as real as a candidate's going to get. I'm as real as a person is going to be. I'm trying to always be as honest and real and pure and genuine with people as possible. And so I'm not the most experienced politically. I know my politics like crazy, but I certainly haven't held public office. But if you want a leader that will be real with you and will not sugarcoat things and will fight for everyday working people because he is one and because he cares about improving the lot of 95% of the country and not just 5%, then give me a chance, and I promise I won't let you down. We might not win, but you'll be proud of the campaign we run. That's my story.
Ben, thank you so much for sharing your heart with us, because that's what spoke to me most about everything you shared. You're probably sitting at home tuning in, and when you hear of a comedian running for president and you weren't on stage at the Democratic debates, does this person, are they legit? Is this just a PR stunt? And from hearing you share, at least to me, your heart is absolutely in the right place. These are clearly issues, something that is so near and dear to you. And I know that something that you shared off air with me is that you only wish you would have started your campaign earlier. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just really fascinated to learn more from you, as you have a very unique experience as someone who has put yourself out there and is running for president. And there's so many lessons and learnings as to what you've experienced in terms of the climate of the United States here today, what people actually want. Do they feel like their voices are heard by politicians? But I'm also curious to know just what you'd say to anyone who maybe isn't taking you seriously as to legitimacy of your campaign.
I would say you need to see what it is maybe in your own self that makes you not believe somebody when they pour their heart out. Because if you know anything about comedy, the point is to make people laugh. As you heard in that story, I couldn't have been less funny, unfortunately. I couldn't be more serious. And so if this whole thing is a stunt to get more comedy fans, I'm going about it in a very boring, weird, non-comedic way. I don't think anybody's going to see, wow, that guy that just went on a 9-minute speech about the seriousness of our country's crumbling. I can't wait to see his hour special, which I do have, Amazon Prime. But I don't think the things I'm usually saying in this campaign are winning me a ton of comedy fans. And it definitely is alienating some of my comedy fans, a good number of them that don't want to hear any of this from someone that's just made them laugh on panels talking about pop culture on Chelsea Lately or making fun of contestants' bad answers on idiot tests. I don't feel like this is a needed step in the trajectory of my career. Mm-hmm. But I would say to anybody listening who doesn't believe in the premise of my campaign that I just laid out, of course, if you don't believe in it, don't donate to my campaign. But please donate to a campaign. Mm-hmm. Please take seriously studying these different candidates and seeing who you think. You can donate to many at this point as well, but which ones you think truly have the best shot to win. But again, if you disagree with me, just get involved and donate to whoever you believe in, and also just try to do something in your community or in the world to make one of these urgent problems we are facing, whether it's climate, whether it's the cost of housing, the homelessness epidemic, the opioid epidemic, whether it's the gun situation that is so tragic every few days in this country, and we need middle ground solutions that we can all agree on. Get involved in something and just do a little bit to help us tackle these problems, because I would love to get back to a place where I can just be more lighthearted and go back to my comedy career. But at the moment, we got too many big problems to tackle.
Mm-hmm. What can one person do?
A lot. One person can do a lot. I mean, 2 years ago, I didn't have a thought in my head of running for president, and now I'm starting to compete. Our campaign is the 29th highest fundraising Democratic campaign, and that's with no background in politics and nobody expecting this campaign coming from anywhere. And 29th is not a lot of money, unfortunately, but it's one that's resonating. And even without doing that, just the charity work one can do, or a company somebody can start that ripples through the world. Look at Facebook, look at Twitter, look at UNICEF, look at UNICEF Next Gen that a friend of mine started that became the way to activate young people in the mission of UNICEF protecting the world's children. Look at All Hands and Hearts that another friend of mine, that was Casey Rotter, another friend of mine, Petra Nemkova, who suffered horrible tragedy in the tsunami in Thailand years ago and turned that into an organization that helps people rebuild around the world from natural disasters that happen everywhere, from Hurricane Harvey, where I got to volunteer with their organization and see firsthand as I helped rebuild a home and a school that were affected in Harvey, how I just came in for a few days, but how they make it their mission to just go disaster area to disaster area to rebuild and stay there, not just in the initial recovery response, but for the year to 2 years to 3 years it takes to really get the town completely repaired. These all start from ideas.
I had a feeling you'd say something like that, but I find it to be so inspiring. I know that oftentimes we are slaves to our own inner critics and fears and insecurities. So I love whenever someone has the courage to stand for what they believe in, to put themselves out there with no guarantees, especially when you got your haters and your critics coming out from the woodworks. And I'm just super inspired by it. So
Thanks,
thank you for sharing that.
Of course, but also let me just say, not to denigrate my old career of comedy and art in any way, has such a wonderful, needed, positive, important impact in the world. Not everybody's going to be able to run for president, nor should they. Yeah. Plus, it'd be way too crowded of a field. We're already pretty crowded. You can help in many ways. Having a podcast that helps people cut people down and inspire them, cut people down to their most authentic self. And I don't mean cut them down. I mean like cut to their core. Yeah. And then helps people be inspired to be more authentic in their life, makes a huge ripple and really helps a lot. So anything you do that is something that comes from your heart or your passion, I think will have ripples beyond what you realize.
The next question I wanted to ask you is in regards to authenticity. You were talking about, tapping into your heart, but I'm wondering, is there anything in particular that you feel like people could be more real with themselves about?
I think people need to be more real, even with, and I'm guilty of this, even with the way they present themselves on social media, because we all most of us fall victim to one of the many things I love about my girlfriend. She's not on Instagram. That's helpful to authenticity. But if you're going to be, try to post warts and all, post the good and the bad. I was talking with a woman recently in New Hampshire who is a school teacher, and not only are her students suffering from anxiety, but her 3 daughters are suffering from a lot of anxiety. She doesn't attribute it to fear of school shootings, or she attributes it to social media, the pressure of being perfect, which is a ridiculous pursuit.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to be more real in presenting the good and the bad and the struggles. And instead of I woke up like this, it should be, here's how I woke up. Yeah. Take it in. You can see later how I look after I paint on my face for the day, or, it's good to show all sides of the human journey, but just in general, being more willing to be vulnerable, I think is important.
Yep. Next question I wanted to ask you is in regards to you, this unique perspective that you have, having run for president, knowing kind of what it's like to stand in the shoes of someone who's running for president, and to maybe empathize and see the candidates, all the candidates who are running, in maybe a little bit of a different light as to what it's like to be a politician. So I'm curious to get your insight as to, what it would be like to, whether it be Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump, or, all the people who are out there who have been in politics for a long time. I'm just curious to hear your take, what it's like.
Definitely, I have more empathy for it. It's easy, and I still say it, and I still believe that a lot of them spin the truth, and a lot of them are doing things to maintain power and have not done enough to challenge the status quo and to challenge the system to truly make change. But I think they at least got into it the right things, and I think in their heart they still would like to change things if they don't take it at the fastest track. And you have to be impressed with their stamina and their ability not to misstep, and their ability to look people in the eye and convey to them how much they actually care about their problem. I think that is, I don't know if Trump does that particularly, but to be able to take on the weight of the world on your shoulders is not an easy task, and I definitely admire anybody that tries to do it. And so I have no animus towards the other candidates. I have great respect for them. But it's just whichever one you think is most likely to be effective is a very important question.
We can learn so much from each of the candidates. And I think, certainly from someone like Donald Trump, like the name calling, it's like, for me, like if I ever find myself in a place where, I am like promoting my self-image to try to look good, or I'm saying something cruel to someone else, like, even though I wouldn't say that those are characteristics that I like someone would think of me and they'd be like, oh, Mark Shapiro is like just like Donald Trump. They wouldn't. But I think we all have elements of all of the different players and characters within ourselves. So I think that, if we can see those things and learn from them, I think it can align us greater to our values and who we do strive to be in order to, live our truth and stand for what we believe in. My fourth question of this part of the interview: what have you learned about yourself in this process?
I've learned that I'm capable of a lot more empathy than I thought. I'm able to lay my heart in front of people without needing the cover of comedy more than I've ever tried to do publicly, except for the occasional every year and a half emotional Facebook post that spills out on a weird night. And I've learned that I miss being funnier. I got to do this comedy taping yesterday, the show Punchline. It fit into my schedule, and it was just the most joyous day to be able to be lighthearted and make people laugh. That's what I've always dedicated my life to, and I miss it a little bit.
Those are such beautiful life lessons that sometimes we have to go so far out of our comfort zone in order to learn some of those lessons. So I'm excited to hear how those continue to support you and your journey moving forward. And Ben, this fifth question is, to distill it down, what is your vision for America?
That's an easy one. I grew up knowing so sharply what America is because it was taught to me by my parents, who were not born here, as I was the first person born in this country in my family. But they taught me that if you just work hard and believe in yourself, you can achieve your dreams, and always supported my dreams. And while all four of my grandparents were inspirational in their very own way, like my mom's mom, Rachel, who was a sweet, soft-spoken woman who ended up helping so many people that were imprisoned in Israel reacclimate to normal life and find jobs in the community after they were released. And in this tiny little town in the north of Israel, her funeral was attended by like 200 people, which is quite an enormous feat for the size of this town and the ripples of impact that her little life actually ended up being quite big and being felt quite wide. And who I've always credited as being my ultimate hero in life, my grandfather Joseph, who embodied the American dream in every way. He tragically lost all of his family in the Holocaust, and he escaped that fate by having moved to China, but still did not escape the fate of being thrown into a labor camp in Siberia during World War II, and promising my grandma that he would, but this is my dad's dad and mom, and promising my grandma that he would get back to her and to wait for her, and he would find a way for them to reunite, and became a leader in his labor camp. And then when finally released, found passage for them separately to Israel, and was there during the founding of the state of Israel, and helped build up that nation and helped find homes in Israel for children who were orphaned in the Holocaust with good families in Israel, and had the dream of coming to America because America is the one place that you can come for a better life, where you can hope that with hard work and a good attitude, you can build whatever life you want. And came here with the cliche, no money in his pocket, that so many immigrants did, because his country welcomed them here and gained passage here and tried everything he can, tried many different businesses, from a car wash to then moving to South America for a plastics factory, then coming back to America to pursue more opportunities and starting to build a real estate company and getting involved in the stock market and building and property management and trying whatever he can to build a life and to build a success, and literally came from the darkest depths of the world. And with the sheer opportunity this country provides and the capitalist nature of this country, but also with the compassionate heart behind it that enables us to help people when they struggle, so they're able to take chances and to struggle and to risk, ends up living in a penthouse in Beverly Hills, going from the darkest depths to the greatest heights, and being able to end his life knowing he achieved those dreams because this country made it possible. That's what America is, and what it always was in my mind, a country where anything is possible because we believe in people, we support people, we don't oppress people, we give them opportunities. We're always moving towards light, and we're moving forward. We're not about pitting us against each other or marginalizing groups or making this place one that is not seen worldwide as being welcoming of those that are different than us, or those that are coming to escape strife and murder and difficult circumstances to seek a better life. But in fact, we are what it says in the Statue of Liberty. Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. That's America. That's what this country is supposed to be. And that's what this country is in my heart. We have a hiccup right now, a small footnote in history due to this orange monster that needs to be taken out. And soon we're going to be able to say to him, you're fired, like he said to so many people in Celebrity Apprentice. And we're going to be back on track. We just need to hold tight a little longer. We're going to do it because America is unstoppable.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to let that out. You got me fired up there, Ben. Such a beautiful rant, a beautiful story, so near and dear to you. And that's the America that I want to live in. So thank you for leading the way.
Of course, man. Ben,
what can we do to support you?
Give me a bigger shirt would be great. If anybody wants to GoFundMe a large shirt, XXL, would be lovely. Just please, if you believe at all in what I've said, if you believe at all in supporting a campaign to change our politics, to give the power back to the people quite truly, to take our democracy back from all the forces that are just giving moneyed interests all the power and all the decisions and taking it away from the everyday working American that almost all of us are, we need to be able to give a voice to smaller campaigns then, and we have to be able to show that we don't want the media and the political establishment to decide for us which candidates we get to take seriously. And furthermore, if you believe at all that we need at least this early in the conversation, a year and a half before the election, some other options, so it's not just 24 people arguing at the margins of the same damn points and the same damn plans, trying to make it seem like they're different, when I'm actually offering something very different that we should at least be able to consider on a more broad national level, then just please spread the word of this campaign, hashtag Gleib 2020, Gleib 2020, and please go to Gleib2020.com. We didn't get into the individual issues that much in this podcast, but they're up on the website, they're on my social media, and please donate whatever you can afford. If you can afford just $1, that counts as a donation to get us on that debate stage, and we would be so appreciative. But if you can afford $5, $10, $20, $100, if you can afford $500, please do give that, because I'm the only campaign that has not and is not spending 5 hours a day calling rich donors for money. I want it to be powered as much as possible by regular people. And so please donate whatever you can. Won't do any favors for you individually if you donate. I promise you that. I will just do what's right for the country. And that's enough of a favor, I think, to pay you back for your generous contribution. Gleib2020.com. Gleib2020.com. It's very easy. You click a button and then you're done within minutes. Or you can buy merchandise and that counts as a donation too. You got a lot of options. And please, for the love of God, get me a larger shirt.
So Gleib2020.com.
Correct.
And from what you shared, you clearly know how to use the internet. So you have a leg up on Joe Biden in that regard.
I'm aware of the difference between text messages and computers. One of them run by tubes. One of them is run by little elves that send words into your phone. That's how they get them into your pocket, because they're tiny.
Yeah, indeed. So Ben, I have one last question to take this interview home. And I'm going to ask for you to complete the phrase. So the phrase is just whatever you stand for. So just start your share, whatever you stand for, and complete the phrase.
Whatever you stand for, actually stand for it. Actually stand up and fight for that thing. As long as it's a good thing. If it's a bad thing, don't stand. Stay on the couch, let that thing go away. But if it's something positive that contributes to the world in any way, whether it's through laughter or an idea or a cause you get behind, whatever you stand for, stand up and do that thing, because it'll help the world. It'll help people you care about, and it'll make your relaxation at the end of the day so much more real and enjoyable and a true break from the good work you did, that you'll be able to drink a little harder, party a little stronger, sleep a little better, because you know you did your work that day. It's always good at the end of a hard day work to be able to take some time off to decompress. I have not been doing that in this campaign, but you can do it as long as you earn that break. So just whatever you do, whatever you stand for, do good and do it hard.
The one and only Ben Gleib. Ben, thank you for coming on the show, opening up your heart, speaking your truth with us, both about the campaign, both about your shirt, and the hot nature of this house right now with the windows closed. But Ben, just wishing you all the best in your campaign and journey moving forward. Thank you for standing for what you believe in. Thank you for leading the way. America needs more people like you.
My pleasure, man. I'm going to start having babies just so I can have more little me's running around.